My name is Mary. I recently turned 40, and for some reason, my legs cramp up when I stretch. Could it be because I've been working remotely and not getting enough exercise? No way, it's because I gained 11 pounds over Christmas, right? I should have asked Santa to help me fix my lack of willpower and my tendency to procrastinate, especially since my go-to phrase is, "I'll start dieting tomorrow." Today, I want to share a story from when I was working hard to lose weight after giving birth. I hope you'll listen. This happened about 10 years ago. Back then, I was busy raising my 4-year-old daughter Michelle with my husband Thomas. People say girls are easier to raise than boys, but it really depends on the child. Michelle was a handful, always running around the moment I took my eyes off her. Juggling her, household chores and work was tough. But it was fun too. Thomas's company had gone bankrupt over about a year before. So we were living off his unemployment benefits and my income as a web designer. Fortunately, I made decent money, so we weren't struggling. But then another issue came up. It was my sister-in-law Rebecca, who had just turned 20. We hadn't been very close with Rebecca before, when her live-in boyfriend dumped her. Turns out she was pregnant, but not with his child. She had been honest with him, hoping to marry the child's real father, but got dumped instead. She even tried to get back with her ex, but that was a no-go. Still, she was determined to have the baby and chose to become a single mom. That's fine, it's her life. But then she started relying on Thomas. Rebecca had been working temp jobs but quit them all after getting pregnant. Probably because it was awkward for her, as her ex-boyfriends worked at the same places. If you quit your part-time job, you will naturally lose your income. So she had no income and not much in savings. And she started asking Thomas for money and favors. It's not like they were close, she was just taking advantage of the situation. Thomas, being the serious guy he is, was seen as boring by Rebecca and somewhat disliked. But Thomas adored his much younger sister, even if she didn't feel the same way. Their relationship had become distant as she entered her teens. So, in Thomas's mind, his demanding sister was just his adorable sister asking for help. If Rebecca relied on Thomas and he was willing to help within his means, I wouldn't mind. But honestly, I was quite puzzled when I had to help with chores at my in-laws' house or accompany her to the OBGYN. Because Thomas was unemployed, I had to focus on my job more than ever. I used to leave work early to pick up Michelle from daycare, but now I'm back to working regular hours. Thomas had said, "I'll come, so I'll do whatever I can." But ever since Rebecca chose to be a single mom, he'd forget to pick up our daughter from daycare and neglect chores at our home, only to go help at his parents' house. I'd come home to find laundry half-folded, near an open dresser, or wet clothes forgotten in the washing machine. I've even had to leave work in a rush because he forgot to pick up our daughter. To be honest, it was more than puzzling, it was downright irritating. His mom, Linda, is there at his parents' house, and she works just like we do. Why does Thomas need to help out so much there? Even now, thinking about it makes me angry. But I try to understand, thinking, giving birth is a life-changing event, and he's probably worried as a brother. I had to hold back from snapping. "Were you this helpful when I was giving birth?" A little while after Rebecca moved back in with her parents, I noticed something. Actually, it might have started even before that. Our joint account was dwindling. At first, I thought Thomas was withdrawing living expenses. The amount seemed about right. But then it started to increase. Why are we spending so much? Dinner hasn't gotten fancier, and there is no special event at Michelle's daycare, I wondered. Around that time, Thomas had become a Rebecca-only taxi. To use an old-fashioned term, he's a handyman. He'd drive her not just to the OBGYN, but also for local shopping, to a new mall, to the movies she wanted to see alone, and even to dates with new guys. I did think, why are you happily driving your pregnant sister to dates? But kept quiet. Every family has its own dynamics. I decided to keep quiet, at least until Rebecca safely gave birth. Then, one day, after I had to rush to pick up Michelle because Thomas forgot, he said, I gave Rebecca some money because she said she needed it. What? I couldn't comprehend what Thomas was saying. Which account did you take the money from? Your unemployment benefits? No, from our joint account, the one for living expenses. What? That's when I finally understood where the missing money had gone. Thomas had been willingly giving it to Rebecca. Most of the money in our joint account came from my earnings. Thomas's unemployment benefits were minimal. Don't make decisions like that on your own. We are saving that money for Michelle's future. So what? It will accumulate again. But the money won't come back on its own. Are you going to replace it? Why should I? Because I want to save as much as possible for Michelle. Then we should also save money for my sister's child. Rebecca can't earn money right now, so it's okay for us to support her, right? Thomas said this with a smirk, as if he couldn't understand why I was upset. Don't nitpick. We have money, but Rebecca doesn't. She doesn't have an education and she's going to be a single mom. We all need to support her as a family. Thomas always acted like he was some wise and understanding husband and brother. I'd say, it's your own fault you don't have an education. Sure, you might not have money, but I don't get why another family should support you who has time to hang out with guys. Why don't you just get a job, Thomas? Stop talking about maxing out unemployment benefits. What are you so mad about? Stop taking your work stress out on me. Excuse me? That's not what this is about. Oh, by the way, I gave Rebecca some baby stuff she wanted when she came over the other day. What? Which ones? You know, the stroller we had upstairs and the baby blanket. She also wanted some household items, so I gave those to her too. Bring them back. The household items are fine, but at least bring back the baby stuff. Those are memories from when Michelle was born. Come on, we're not using them anymore. Memories just collect dust. If someone can use them, they should have them. If you have a problem with that, should we get a divorce? Is that what you want? For a moment, I was speechless at Thomas's harsh words. I had been thinking we'd use the stroller and baby blanket again if we had a second child. But maybe he's right. Maybe we won't use them again. That's what I thought. Fine, sign this. What I pulled out of my bag was a divorce application. Just a week ago, I had impulsively picked it up at the city office, tired of Thomas's excessive affection for Rebecca. I can get a divorce anytime. We have a child, so it's not just about me. Let's cool down. I had been carrying it around as a sort of emotional support, never thinking I'd actually use it. Thomas was momentarily shaken, but then snapped, "If you're going to act like that, let's get a divorce," and signed the divorce application. 3 months have passed since the divorce. For the first month, I had days when I cried, thinking all this over something so trivial. But by now, I was completely over it. I did the right thing dumping a jobless, sister-obsessed husband, I thought. Then, out of the blue, Thomas contacted me on my mobile phone. He said he wanted to talk about Michelle's child support. Since we had agreed he would increase the monthly payments once he got a job, I thought maybe he had found work and agreed to meet. But when Thomas showed up at the restaurant, he looked terrible. He was wearing an old t-shirt, worn-out pants that looked like the elastic had given out, and flip-flops. Thomas should have been living at his parents' home with Rebecca and Linda, so what on earth happened? He certainly didn't look like someone who had landed a job. Seeing my puzzled expression, Thomas quickly spoke up. "Please, let's live together again." "Are you serious?" I divorced him because I thought he was nuts, but this time I couldn't help but wonder, is he okay upstairs? Who in their right mind would live with their ex-husband again? What a chore. I know, I'm asking something crazy. No, it's not just a little crazy, it's very crazy. You're right, but you're the only one I can turn to. What do you mean? I got kicked out of the house by Rebecca, my sister. I'm sorry. I laughed. Why? I ran out of unemployment benefits, have no job, and can't pay you child support. I'm broke. Ah, makes sense. Anyone would toss out a wallet that's not good. Thomas was visibly downcast by my casual response of, "I see." But to me, it was all within expectations. I never thought he'd come crying to me, but I did think that the longer he went without finding work, the more likely this would happen. After all, Rebecca never really liked Thomas as a brother. She was just relying on him because he had money. Wait a minute, though. During our divorce, Thomas didn't cheat or anything, so I didn't get any alimony, just child support. I kind of wanted to get back at him. Is this my chance? A wicked thought crossed my mind. You must be hurting. You were so kind to her, and yet Rebecca is so cold to you. Exactly. I feel like she's repaying kindness with ingratitude. The baby is due soon. But I have no intention of helping her anymore. Right, you should stick to that. You've been trying hard, Thomas. You're the only one who understands that. Really? Linda doesn't get it? Mom says I'm the fool for letting Rebecca push me around. I almost spit out my coffee at his mom's spot on command, but I coughed to cover it up. Thomas is earnest, which is good, but it also narrows his perspective. Linda probably sees through that, and that's why she's not helping Rebecca. Linda is right, Thomas is the fool here. But kind-hearted me won't say that. Wow, that's harsh. No one sees the effort you're putting in, Thomas. Exactly. Mom and Rebecca can't see things clearly. That's why Rebecca falls for the wrong guys and why Mom ended up divorcing Dad. You're the one saying that after causing our divorce? But you know, you're the only one who really understands me. I'm sorry for all the arguments and for mentioning divorce. I almost blurted out. Thanks, I'm having a blast now. But held my tongue. I quickly changed my smile to a more solemn expression. How about we give it another try? Yeah, let's become a family again. Just as I thought, everything is going according to plan. That's when it happened. No way! Michelle, sitting next to me, started crying loudly. Dad never picks me up from daycare. I'm tired of waiting. I want Mom, only Mom. Caught off guard by Michelle's words, Thomas turned pale. To be honest, Michelle often says, I don't need a dad who won't even pick me up. So I knew she would resist if Thomas tried to reconcile. That's why I led him to consider reconciliation. If Thomas had said, let's reconcile, Michelle wouldn't have understood the word and the rejection wouldn't have been so smooth. Because Thomas used words Michelle could understand, she got his point and rejected him with all her might. Good job, Michelle. It's probably harder for Thomas to be rejected by Michelle than by me. But man, if Thomas had used words Michelle didn't understand to propose getting back together, this plan might not have worked. It was a bit of a gamble, but I'm glad it paid off. Thomas cautiously approached the crying Michelle. It's Dad. I don't have a dad anymore, and my dad wasn't like this. You're not my dad. You're gross. I hate you. What? I'm your dad. I'm not some old man. My dad didn't have seaweed all over his mouth. Gross. Apparently, Michelle sees Thomas's scruffy beard as seaweed. Makes sense. He used to shave when we lived together. Wait, Michelle, look closely. It's your dad. Come here. Ah! A Batman is here! He's going to take me away! Thomas was taken aback by Michelle's genuine cries, a mix of shrieks and wails. Did you switch careers from dad to suspicious person, Thomas? Stop joking and explain to Michelle that I'm her dad. I won't do that. You're not her dad anymore. Didn't you hear, Michelle? To us, you're just some old man. What? Why are you pretending to be dad? It's creepy. I never said I wanted to remarry, but you are just assuming. I picked up the crying Michelle and comforted her. As soon as Michelle was in my arms, she stopped crying instantly. How wonderful. This kid could be an actress someday. But why? We had a good vibe going. Where was the good vibe when you were just venting and feeling good about it? What? I was just nodding along. Michelle almost got abducted by a suspicious person because of you, so I'm not in a good mood. Wait, you were just nodding? You weren't serious? Yep. Enough with the teasing. Right. I said this to Thomas, who looked like he was about to explode. Michelle and Linda have heard everything so far. What? What? I pulled out my mobile phone from my right pocket and naturally Thomas's eyes were glued to it. Rebecca's name was displayed on the screen. What does this mean? Thomas asked, almost groaning. Didn't you notice I was fiddling with my phone while you were talking? Now that you mention it, you were doing something. I called Rebecca's phone and left it on, putting my phone in my breast pocket. So, all the terrible things you said about Rebecca and Linda were heard over the phone. What? Are you okay? You said quite a lot about Linda and the others, like they can't see things clearly and fall for the wrong guys. Thomas turned pale at my words. Just then, Rebecca's voice came through the phone, berating Thomas. Enough is enough! I quickly switched the phone to speaker mode and asked, Rebecca, did you hear all of that? It's all clear, Linda responded. Really? What a useless brother! Don't ever show your face again. I raised you and Rebecca better than this. Maybe it's time to distance myself from you to cultivate that insight you claim to have. Thomas's face turned even paler at Rebecca and Linda's words. No, that was just a subtle nuance in my words. Why, Rebecca is also at fault. She used me. Maybe so, but you did it willingly. It's your responsibility. If you're going to complain, you shouldn't have done it. It's uncool. What? Thomas was at a loss for words at my response, but his silence probably meant he understood somewhere deep down. After pondering for a while, Thomas asked again, So, are you serious about not remarrying? Well, it seems he can't go back to his parents, and I'm his last hope as an unemployed man. Marriage isn't something you can easily return to, just like our baby supplies won't come back from Rebecca. You've lost not just your marriage, but also your family home. Maybe this will teach you to be more aware of your surroundings. Thomas hung his head in silence. Finally, he seemed to realize the gravity of what he'd lost and what he'd done. In the end, he simply said, I'm sorry, it was my fault, and bowed his head without asking for a remarriage. Fast forward 10 years. Rebecca chose the path of a single mother but failed in 2 marriages. Thomas, after a long period of unemployment, was taken back into his parents' home by Linda. He eventually found a job, but got manipulated by Rebecca again when she returned home after her second failed marriage. He is a lost cause, incurable. Now, most of his salary goes to child support for me and contributions to Rebecca and her children. He doesn't work for a big company, and his take-home pay is small. He can't even save money, so we might see that ragged Thomas again soon. I'm glad I divorced him. As I've said, he is incurable. As for me, Michelle has grown up a bit, and the sudden fevers she used to get have decreased, allowing to me work energetically. Thanks to that, I've reached a leadership position at work. It's hard for housewives to climb the corporate ladder, and even if they do, the scrutiny is harsh just because they are women. So, my career progress is considered exceptional. It was tough, but I'm glad I stuck with housework, childcare, and my job. From now on, the plan is to live life without forgetting to smile, just Michelle and me.